What's up, Node.js developers? Welcome back to DEVember. Today is day 7, and the topic of today's video, where is it? Here it is going to be to build a memos application, the voice memo application that you might find on iOS. And during this tutorial, the focus is going to be on handling and working with a microphone, storing audio files, and then playing them back. So here is the list of things that you're going to learn. First of all, we're going to learn about Expo AV because we're going to use that for both recording audio and for the playback. After recording the audio, we will create a simple player and we will take inspiration from the WhatsApp voice messages player in order to play back the audio that we recorded. And lastly, we're going to attempt to build the audio waveform animation, also similar to how WhatsApp is doing and other social media applications. So I hope that you're excited as I am for this tutorial. And before we get started with the coding part, let me quickly introduce the DEVember, the month-long marathon of React Native tutorials. We're currently at day 7, and every single day we are doing a specific project that can help you build better React Native applications. Everything is here on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe to the channel not to miss our future videos. And if you have ideas, feel free to share them in our idea board that you can find in the description below. You'll find a link to that. Also, make sure to vote for the ideas that you would like to see, and I'm usually going through these ideas and planning the content ahead. We still have quite a lot of days, so there is still opportunities to build a lot of fun applications. But DEVember is not only about learning, it's also about giving back. During DEVember, we are organizing a fundraiser called Education for Children, and the goal is to support Save the Children organization in their effort to provide accessible education to children worldwide. So if you're interested in helping this cause, make sure to donate somewhere here directly on YouTube. We've set it up to be transparently here on YouTube, and all the donations go straight to the Save the Children organization, 100% of them. There is also some incentives as a thank you for your help in this cause. And I would like to say big thanks to Rogelio, which is always here. Thank you very much for your support. Sagar, Vale, Travis, and the others who donated. If I miss your name, please send us an email with the receipt that you get back from YouTube, and I'll make sure to include you as well. And if you cannot donate, the easiest way you can support the cause is by simply subscribing to the channel. Because during December, we're going to donate $100 for every 1,000 new subscriber. So hit the red button and we will do that. Anyway, I think we can get started with today's video. I'm gonna quickly show you the repository that we are working with that you will also find in the description below. Here is the repository where we keep the code for all the projects, for all 24 projects that we are building during this series. And you can start at any point because there is a branch for the beginning of the day and the end of the day, starting with 1, and we will have by the end branches for all 24 days. There is day 7 start. So after cloning this repository, go ahead and do a git checkout day 7 start. This will move to the branch and we will all have the same code so we can all start coding together. Here is the full screen view. And what I want you to do, to do npm install. Maybe I'm gonna need also the legacy pure dependencies to install the libraries that we have here in package.json. After that is done, you can simply start the development server by running npm start, and either using the Expo Go application, you can scan the QR code, or if you have a simulator or emulator installed on your system, you should be able to run on them as well. So here I have it on the iOS simulator so that you can see it as well. I'm gonna also work with a physical device because we're gonna work with a microphone. And as we can see, if we go to page 7, the page is not found. You can play around and see what other project we have built. For example, yesterday we have built this Tinder swipe animation, which is really nice. Come on, go back. Then we also implemented like the Airbnb maps in just 1 hour, and other cool projects like animated onboarding screens. The splash screen that you can see here is also part of one of the builds. Anyway, let's focus on today's video. And first of all, I'm gonna go into the application folder. Here is our Expo router folder with all our screens. And in the days directory, I'm going to create a new folder for day 7. And for the index inside there, I'm gonna simply copy the index tsx from day 6. Now, inside here, I'm gonna change a couple of things. Voice memos, work with the microphone, and I can simply change the title to day 6. Day 7, I mean. And our button will go to where? To the slash, I don't know, memos. Let's create this screen called memos, where we will keep all the logic of today's video. Let's call it memos screen. And now we should have a simple boilerplate. We should be able to press on the day 7. Now we see here from the index file, we see here the title, the subtitle as MDX, voice memos. And if I press on this, go to memos at the bottom, I'm going to be redirected to this memo screen that I provided here. Very bad naming, but that's okay. All right, so here is where we will do most of our work. Maybe I should increase a little bit the size of our emulator like this, so that you can see better. Is the app only for iOS? No, the app is working on both iOS and Android. Actually, I haven't tested it much on Android, so there might be some of the things that are not working right out of the box, but with some changes, like everything should be working both on iOS and Android, and some of the stuff also on web as well. So what's happening here, this is an older application, but if I'm going to go here, let's see, it's starting, it's building. Hello Math Hack, hello Rogelio, Canrim. So yeah, as we can see, the application works on Android as well. Let's see if, for example, the Tinder swipe is working. Yes, the images are being loaded. It takes a bit of time, and the swipe actually works really nicely. Perfect. So yeah, the swipe is working. What else? The Airbnb maps working as well. Similarly, in day 4, we have done the animated splash screen. Let's go to this one. For some reason, the Lottie file is not running here. And I think someone else also told me that there is something wrong with the Lottie file, Lottie animation on Android. I can check that, but yeah, most of the things are working. So I'm gonna stop now. And let's focus on today's video about voice memos. The first step is, let's have a look at what library we're gonna use. The Expo AV library is a great library to help you when you have to work with audio or video playback, also audio recordings. So it's for both audio and video, but we're gonna only focus on the A today. So let's go ahead and see. Maybe we're gonna go right away on the audio documentation. So if I scroll, AV, not AV, let's go directly to audio. And here is the installation guide. It's quite simple, thanks to Expo. And all we have to do is npx expo install expo AV. Let's go ahead and install this in our library, in our application, because that will give us access to audio playback and the microphone for audio recording. If I go back, there is some example of how we can use this library. Here we are showing how we can play sounds, and these are sounds that we add in the source code of our application. We're gonna get there, but first let's see how we can record out sounds. Here is their example. I would go ahead and actually copy paste the whole component from here for recording sounds, and then we can look at the details of implementation. Let's paste it instead of our memo screen, and the only thing that I want to do is, instead of up here, I want to come back to memos screen. Okay, so we should already see something. We should see, if I go to memos, we should see in the middle of the screen, start recording. If I open the terminal to see some logs, let's try to press on the button, start recording. I see it's requesting permissions. Because I already gave this application permission, it automatically starts recording. If I press stop recording, we're gonna see the recording stopped and stored that file and the URL of a file where it was saved. So just like that, we have recorded and saved to the file storage an audio memo. But now let's look a little bit through the code of what's happening. I'm gonna start with the moment when we press on the button. This button, depending on the status, if it's currently recording or not, will render different titles. For example, start recording or stop recording, and will also call different functions, stop recording and start recording. Let's look at the start recording. Here we see start recording. First of all, it asks for audio permissions in order to for the user to give access to the microphone. Then it sets some settings for the audio modes in order to allow recording on iOS and also to allow playing the sound when the phone is in the silent mode. This is a common bug that you're trying to play a sound, it's not working, and you realize that your phone is in silent mode. But with this property, it's gonna work as well. Then, using audio.recording, we create this recording, we set the quality, and we save this recording in state in order for us to later be able to stop or start the recording. For example, in the stop recording, we're gonna access that variable from the state, and we'll stop and unload it. Then we're gonna get the URI from that object, and it outputs on the screen. So that's everything that it does, but we still see some, I will do some changes and maybe properly type our state variables in order to have to get rid of these errors and to have better typings. Because it's quite easy, we simply have to specify what is the type of this state. So if we provide here the type that the recording should be of type recording imported from Expo AV build audio, now when we set it here in state, it's going to set it properly. Cool thing is that now in the stop recording, by properly typing it, it uncovers a potential bug, because if we are somehow calling the stop recording when the start recording hasn't even been called, in that situation the recording will be undefined. So what we have to do is to have a better to have less bugs in our application. We're gonna check if recording is undefined, then don't do anything, because you don't have to stop something that you don't have access to. And now we got rid of these recordings as well. And yeah, just like that, our code is much better. We can start and then we can stop. Perfect. Now let's store the URLs into a list of recordings, because I want to see at the top of this button a list of items, a list of recordings. So for that, let's go ahead and start by saying audio or memos, set memos. That's going to be an array of strings now, a string representing the URL to that file. Because at this moment, that's the only thing that we know about the recording, the URL that we saw being console logged when we stopped the recording. I also really don't like React.useState. I always prefer to import the hook right away. Use state. So even if it's a small thing, I don't want to repeat React all over again. And what do I want to do with these memos? Well, first of all, when we stop the recording, I want to append to that array the newly created URI. So at the end of this function, I'm going to check if the URI is defined, because it can also be undefined if there is something wrong. If it's defined, then I want to update our memos, set memos, and I will, instead of sending a value, I'm going to send an update function that will take the existing memos and it will create a new array by destructuring the existing memos and adding the newly created audio at the bottom of the list. Or maybe we can add it at the top to be the first one in the list, and then we're going to put the rest of the existing memos. This way we're going to just put something at the top. So now that we have this array of memos, let's go ahead and use a flat list at the top of a button to render them on the screen. A flat list allows us to render lists of items based on an array of data. So the data here is going to be our memos, an array of URLs of audio files that we created. And in the render item, let's simply get this item, this URL, and simply render it inside the text for now. URI. Or not URI, but item. The item is going to be one item from these memos. So now if I refresh, Madina, no, this application is not only for iOS. I just ran it on Android and everything is working on Android as well. Would it be possible to animate waves while the user is talking? I really wish we will do that. At least I'm gonna try. But yeah, I'm quite confident we will be able to do something. Because yeah, first we're gonna focus on basics like simply recording, simply playback, and after that we will animate. I want to animate as you record the wavelength and then as you play back to also have like these waveforms. So voice memos, the button already is at the bottom of the screen, maybe you don't see it, but if I do it like this, it should be properly visible. If I press on the start recording, wait for a second and then press stop recording, we will see that in our flat list, there is one new item. And this is a URL to the file that we just created. If I do that once again, start and then stop, we see right away a new item being added to the list. Okay, that's good. Now, I think I want to work a little bit on the recording button. Let's go ahead and yeah, let's work on the recording button. I want to make it a little bit better, not just a text button, but something that shows like the recording status. First of all, I'm going to start with a view that I will call footer, and I will style it with styles.footer. Inside that footer, let's put the button itself, but it's not going to be an actual button. It's going to be a pressable that will not have a title, but will have some style, and the style will be style dot. Let's say this is going to be our record button. Now, with these two things in mind, footer and record button, let's go ahead and add some styles here. For example, footer and the record button. Come on, let's go there. 7 memos. Okay, for the footer, background color, I don't know, white. It should have a height of 100, 200 pixels. It shouldn't have any, the container itself shouldn't have any padding. So I'm going to remove the padding from the container because I want the footer to be flush with everything. Perfect. And the record button is going to be a red circle. So let's start by doing background color. I think it was orange red, a color that looks better, and the width. Width, let's do, I don't know, 100, height 100, and border radius to make it a circle, let's do 50. Okay, probably that's too much, so I'm gonna decrease it to maybe 60 and 30. And on the footer, let's do align items center and justify content center in order to align the button in the center here. That's better. I probably will also want to have a border, for example, border with 2 and border color gray, to have a border around this circle, maybe even border with 3, but I want between the red circle and the gray border, I want to have like an empty padding, like a white circle, like some spacing. With this approach, it's not possible because both we are styling the circle of the red part and the border on the same element. However, if we're going to expand the pressable and add inside the pressable a view that is going to be responsible only for the red circle, styles.red circle, then we will treat the button as only the outline with a gray border, but the red circle will be the one that will have background color orange red and maybe some others as well. Give me just 1 second. If I go there, yes, it needs width and height, so I'm gonna do it on the red circle. It needs the border radius both here and here, so I'm gonna do them both. That's a bit weird, but if I'm gonna add, oh, it shouldn't be 30. This one can be a lot like this. And then padding, if I do 3, then we're gonna have the red circle, then an outer layer that is transparent coming from this free padding, which looks like white, and then we have the gray outline. Maybe it should be light gray. No, that's good. Gray is good. Perfect. Perfect. Now, what do we do? Well, we will need to give some feedback to the user when he is recording or not, because now if I will press, nothing will change visually, but we're actually recording. So if I will press once again, we will see that the recording has been saved. So we need to give some user feedback when this is happening. What we can do is we can simply, on this red circle, add a conditional, some conditional styles that will specify, that will change, let's say the width. It will depend if it's recording or not. So the width will be 30 if it's recording and 60 and 60 if it's not. So now it's going to change in width. Okay, I wanted also, maybe I don't need to specify the height, but instead aspect ratio of 1, and in that situation By changing only the width, it will change in sizes. Okay. But I don't want the whole button to change. So for that reason, the record button itself, it will have a width of 60, height 60. Yeah, let's use the hard-coded width and height on the actual button, and with the circle, let's simply do width 50% and here 100%. 100%. Not 10, 100. And if I do it like this, yeah, it shrinks in sizes. So I will simply add on the button itself, I'm gonna add the line items center and justify content center as well. And why it's not in the middle? Align items. Yes, now it's in the middle. So maybe 50 is too little, so maybe 70, but you get the point. Like by changing conditionally something about this icon, we can show this change. This is the easiest way with some conditional styles. You can play with the width, you can play with the background color, you can play with the border radius, and a lot more. If we want to take it to a step to the next step, we can animate these styles and we can have a much smoother experience. Instead of changing right away from big to small, we can have like a shrinking and then expanding. And it's actually easier to do than having like this object with a lot of conditionals. All we have to do is we have to create an animated style. So let's call animated red circle. That will be created using the use animated style from React Native Reanimated. Now here we should create a function that will return an object with basically animated style sheet properties. For example, I want to animate the width. So if I put the width here, basically if I put the same one here for the width, and instead of sending here the object, I will send the animated red circle. So here what we are doing is we are merging static styles for the red circle with the animated styles that are coming from here. And the last thing we need to do in order for this to work is to transform from a view to animated.view. Animated should be imported from React Native Reanimated before destructuring like this. Now if I go to the 7th, and if I press play, we're gonna still have the same sloppy change from big to small, but now it's coming from the animated style. And by simply putting this property, this value that we want to use for the width, into a width timing, then the transition will become smooth because the width timing will move from 70 to 100% smoothly in a linear way and back from 100 to 70. So if I go there, now if I press, you see that it moves slowly. It slowly shrinks and it slowly grows. And we can do that with border radius as well. For example, we can say that we need width timing. If it's recording, we want the border radius to be small, like 5. If it's not recording, we want it to be 30 or 35. Like this. Now, look at this effect. Boom, boom. It kind of shrinks into a circle, not a circle, a square, and then back into a circle. And all of this is happening with 2 width timing animations. Or, yeah. I think the width can be shrinked when it's recording. And now we have this nice, smooth animation of our circle. You can also try a width with Spring, and that will add more elasticity to your animation. But I think in this situation, the timing looks nicer. And just like that, we have a small animated button, which looks nice. Anyway, let's do what? Maybe the footer shouldn't be that large, 150. Maybe that's okay. Okay, so now that we have a footer, the next step is going to be to move into displaying and playing back the audio files that we are rendering in this list. At the moment, we are simply rendering URLs, but I want to render a player there. So for this first step, let's go ahead and create a component. In our components folder, I'm going to create the day 7, and there I'm going to create a new file, memo list item.tsx. Let's generate a functional component, function component. And here, this component will receive a URI, and the URI is going to be a string. Now, in our memo screen, for our flat list, instead of rendering the text, let's go ahead and render the memo list item component that we just created and send there the URI property. URI equal to item, memo list item. And we can go back to rendering the URI that we receive. And we're back to a lot of URIs that looks bad. But yeah, in the next step, we're gonna playback. In the next step, we are going to design in this menu list item, which represents one video or one audio file. And we're going to implement this simple audio player that will allow us to play the audio, to see the progress, and to restart when it reaches the end. How are you doing, guys? Are you following along, implementing it yourself? Super excited for this one. Perfect. Hello, Anupam. Vladimir, hello. I tried that once and failed. What was the challenging part about the waveforms? Was it getting the data or using the data to animate something? My DEVember is awesome. Perfect. Are you following along, implementing it? Anyway, guys, let's go back to our project and let's start by rendering these cards that we see here. So what will we need there in the card? Let's start with defining the style sheet. Style sheet. Let's define the styles. With style sheet.create. I think we will go ahead and make it pretty first and then make it functional. And by functional, I mean actually playing back the audio that it's supposed to play. But first, I want to make it pretty. So for that, we're going to use an icon for this play button. So let's import maybe font awesome 5 from Expo font, not Expo vector icon. Expo, oh boy, how is it? Expo / vector icons, like this. And before the text, we can go ahead and render a font awesome 5 with an icon name called what? Play. Size can be 24 and color can be gray. Perfect. Now let's add some style to our container. And the container will have, let's go ahead with a background color of white. Let's go ahead with, I want to add separation between items. So I could go ahead, but maybe, yeah, I'm going to keep it simple with margin. I showed you already how to do with gap on the parent component, which in my opinion, in a lot of cases is better. But I'm going to keep it simple with margin 5 here. The only difference with margin 5 is that now on the outside it's only 5, but between items it's actually 10 because it's 5 plus 5. But anyway, I will do also flex direction row because I want everything in the same row, and I will align the items in the center to have everything horizontally aligned. Let's add some padding for some spacing inside. And let's round the corners with border radius 10, 5, I don't know. 10. It's okay. It's okay. Now, some shadows. That's definitely React Native. Shadow. Let's generate some shadow here. I'm using this tool to generate shadows. Yes, that looks nice. And on the container itself, if I'm going to add, let me do here a comment shadow. And here, if I'm going to add a gap 10, it's going to add some spacing between the items themselves, between the icon and the rest. Okay, 24 maybe is too much. 20 is okay. 20 is okay. And for the playback, let's think about the playback. The playback is this line with a dot. So this is a simple one. Before we actually go and implement the wavelengths, we're gonna have it simple, a line with a dot. So let's go ahead and start by rendering a view that will contain like this right part containing the playback. So let's call it styles.playback container. Playback container. Now inside there, let's put a view that will be the background. That will be that short line, gray line. So it's going to be styles.playback background. And let's go ahead and start by styling them. We're gonna have playback background and playback container. For the playback background, we're gonna have a height of, I don't know, 3, a background color of gray, and I don't know, let's also do a background color on the above one, playback container, because for the playback container, if I'm gonna add a flex one, it will take the whole space. And now, yes, this one works, playback background. I think the playback container itself should have some height, not width. And also I want to align their items inside it on the center. So justify content center, yes. Maybe 50 is too much, but 30 is going to be okay. So now that we have this one, maybe gray is too much, so I'm gonna do gains borrow. This one is better. The next step is going to be to, I will increase a bit the gap to 15. The next step is going to be to add the indicator of where is it currently playing. But before that, let me open the door because I need some oxygen. Now, Catalin Miron, hello, how are you doing? plus 1,000 subscribers a day. No, it's not like that, but I think it's less. It's around a couple of hundreds. Issue was rendering waves while updating state with recording, and on Android it was much worse. We'll see. Probably we're gonna get through the same challenges. Catalin, come back to live coding. We are waiting for you. Probably with two bodies, it only calculates when you move like 1K up, you know? It doesn't know the smaller numbers. Cannot track it. Anyway. The next step, as I was saying, was in this playback container. I want to add the small indicator. So let me actually make it a little bit larger, because we are working on very small details for the background. Because I'm zoomed in, I now can see that the border radius is not rounded. It's not visible, but it should be there. Anyway, the next step is to add another view here that will be responsible for the indicator. So let's call it playback indicator. This playback indicator will be a small dot. So to make it, we need a width of maybe 20, an aspect ratio of 1 to make it square first, a background color of some kind of blue. So let's try royal blue. And we have a square. Now, if I simply do a border radius 10, that's going to be a circle. But it messes up with the position of the background. So the playback indicator actually is going to have a position absolute, because it just needs to float on top of everything. And by changing the position of the indicator, we don't want to mess the position of other things. And for the width, I think it should be smaller, like 15, maybe even 10. Yeah, something like that. And because we have a justify content center here on the container, it looks horizontally centered correctly. Now, by simply moving the left here, we can also use percentages. So if I'm gonna do left 50, the playback indicator will be right in the middle of a container. So by simply changing here the left, we can show the actual progress. I'm not gonna do it here because it needs to be conditional. I'm going to do it inline by adding this style into an array and by having an extra object here with the left property, where we will have a template string. Initially, let's hard code like 40%, but later we're gonna take it from the actual progress. Maybe I can add here a variable, progress equal 40. Later, we're gonna calculate it. But now let's just render progress. Perfect. So now we have the dot there, ready for us to start playing and display, updating the progress. Yes, I think that the next step is to be the logic, because the UI is quite okay now. Let's focus a little bit on the functionality, and let's actually load the audio file from the URI and play it when we press on this button. To do that, I'm going to go back in the documentation of Expo AV, and for this one, I'm not going to look at the audio, but directly at the AV. Or no, actually on audio, the documentation there is good as well. It has an example of playing back the sound. So let's start by I don't want to code everything. Let's copy the use effect, the play sound, and the state variable from the example. Let's move it in our application. In the memo list item that represents one of these tracks, we are going to add here this. As I said, I don't like having the React there, so I'm gonna import the state, so use state. What else? We need to import audio from Expo AV. Then we have here typing problem, because we need to specify the type of this state, and the type of this state is going to be audio or sound. It's sound, imported from Expo AV build. What else? Here, let's import the use effect. We're going to import from React use effect. What else? Okay, that's good. So what's happening here? There is this method play sound that creates the method. It saves the sound in the state, and then it also calls this play async. So in fact, this method is doing has two responsibilities. First, to load the sound, and then to play it. What I want to do is I want to split this responsibility into actually two functions. So let's create another function for load sound. And let's move the first part of the function here. Because when loading the sound, we only want to import it, to create it, and to save it in state. And that's it. When should we load the sound? I would like to load the sound when the URI, or when the component mounts, or when the URI changes. So I'm gonna add a use effect with URI here, and I'm going to call load sound. That will be called initially when the component mounts. It will load the sound, and when the URI changes, it will again reload this sound. Now, in this play sound, we need to double check if when calling this play sound, the actual sound is loaded. So I can check if sound is not defined. I will simply return because there is nothing to play yet. Maybe the function was called too early. Now we got rid of that error because here it's already safe to call play async, as we already checked and made sure that the sound is defined. When should we call this play sound function? We should do that when we click on the play button. So let's create an onPress event here and simply call play sound. Now if I restart, it says that unable to resolve hello MP3. This is an example of playing a sound that you have in your source code, in the assets, and it's loaded in the binary of application. In our case, we want to dynamically load a sound based on a URI. So to do that, it's quite similar to how we are working with an image. It's either we are requiring a file from the source code, or we are sending an object with a URI. And the URI value will be this one, and because they have the same name, it can be simplified in shorthand like this. Now it will dynamically create the audio based on this URI. This URI can be local or remote. In our case, they are local files, but yeah, even a remote file will work here. So if I go to our page, if I click record and save, then our menu list item will be rendered at the top. What we expect to see when looking in the console logs is that this console log was executed, loading sound. Yes, we see that it was loaded. Not sure if it succeeded, but when we press on the button, on the play button, we expect this function, playing sound, to be called and to actually hear something. So let's see. Click record and playing sound. Not sure if I will be able to hear anything. And playing it the second time probably will not work, but we're gonna get there. Slowly, like we will add like features to have more feedback of what's happening. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let me just see if I will hear anything. Happening 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, the best way to test is going to be using my Expo Go here on my physical device. Just to see if the playback is at least starting. So I will go to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if I try to play, yes, it works. So I heard the playback. That means that everything is working so far. Now, the next step is going to be probably the playback update function. This is a very important function because it's the function that is being called with information about the audio itself. So from that function, from that data, we're gonna get whether the audio is currently playing, whether it's loaded or not, how much, how long is the audio, how much we already played or not. So it's a very crucial method when working with audios. So let's have a look at them. Where is it? 1 second. It's a bit difficult, to be honest, to navigate here, but I think if I go to AV, I will go to the playback, load the sync, and no. It should be somewhere on the sound. Here, in the audio, there is classes, there is sound, and we will look at them on playback status update. So this is the third function that we can send to the create method, or we can actually use a setter. For example, we can do sound.set on. No, we cannot do that through the function. Okay. Then we're gonna, as I said, we're gonna use the create async parameters to send there the update function. If we look at this create async, we see that the first parameter is source, then we have the initial status. The initial status is optional, so I don't want to send anything, I'm gonna send undefined there. But the third option is this on playback status update. That is a function which will receive the status of our playback. Let's go ahead and define this function. I'm going to define it here, or maybe even after the use effect, as async function on playback status update. It's going to receive a status, and the type of a status is going to be AV playback status, AV playback status. Now I can simply console log the status as JSON stringify. Let's do status. What do we have here? I forgot to open the brackets. And if I will send this one as the third parameter to the create async, this method will be called from time to time, periodically, every, let's say, 100 milliseconds, with updates about the status. So let's have a look if that's happening. That's gonna show in the logs, because we are console logging at the moment. So if I go to memos, record something, then pause it. It's started to lag. What's happening? Pause. Styles does not exist. I lost the styles. Usually that happens when I have to go back until they appear. Here they are. Yes, I saved them. 7 memos. Let's record 1, 2, 3, go back. Here we have it. Let's open the the logs, and if I will press, we will start receiving console logs about the status of a playback. So let's see. Let's record 1, 2, 3 playing sound, and we don't receive anything back. Weird. Yeah, because I did go back until I removed it from sending it to the create async. Now, yes, now it works. So I can load one more. And if I press it, we're gonna see the first one is loaded false, but after that it will start sending information like is looping, like progress, like playable duration, is loaded, duration, and so on. So this is a very important part, the status. Where is it? On playback status update. Let's go ahead and actually save it in our state because it contains information that we will need. So status, set status. Let's go ahead and do use state av. It's going to be the same type as this one, av playback status. And initially, can it be undefined? Yeah, I think it can be undefined. So what we're gonna do is when we get the status, we're gonna do set status. Now with this status, what can we do there? Well, one thing that we can do is we can get whether the audio is currently playing or not. Is playing. Let's calculate that based on the status. So status dot, as we can see, if we put dot, it will only have two properties, is loaded and Android implementation. Because if the track is not loaded yet, it will not have any details. So we should always check if status is loaded, and then if status is loaded, it will actually have access to a lot of information about the playback. So only when this is true, we will have access to the other ones. If it's false, it will only be two properties, is loaded false. Now here we will be able to take is playing, and this is going to be a boolean specifying whether that track is currently playing or not, and using that we can change the icon that we display, because if it's playing we want to display the pause icon, otherwise the play icon. Let's see if it will work. Let's do here double dots false. It was a tertiary operator, or it should be and. Come on, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, pause. Now, when I press play, I expect the icon to move to pause. Come on, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It moves to pause, and when it reaches the end, it sets to stop. Now, about progress. This is also not very hard to calculate based on some information from the status. What we need to know is the current duration, basically at what point we are currently playing. So we're gonna do status is loaded. If status is loaded, then that one is going to be dot current or duration millisecond, otherwise 0. And we also will need the total duration of a track as well. Total duration and position. So actually the duration is this total duration, and the first one is position. So let's actually call them like this, position and duration. For the duration, I initialize it with 1 because we will have to divide by duration, and if it's going to be 0, it's going to crash the application. So the progress now is going to be our position divided by duration, and by doing that we will get a value from 0 to 1, and if it's just starting it's going to be 0, if it's finished it's going to be 1. So we simply need the progress in percentages. So I'm going to take the progress and multiply it here by 100. Now, if I press play, come on, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, we see that the progress is moving to the left. It jumps, but we can think about how we can do that smoothly with some animations as well. But the problem is right now, if I press one more time here, it actually doesn't do anything because that track is set at the end, like the position of a track is at the end. What we can do is we can say that whenever we finish the track, let's reset the position to the beginning. To do that, inside our on playback status update, the status will have this, if status is loaded and status has or just finished, did just finish, this will be true only when the track just finished and stopped playing. And if this is true, we will do the following. We will do sound dot set what? Set position async to 0. We will reset the position of our track to the 0th millisecond. Now if we play again, it stops. It doesn't go back. Why? Cannot complete operation because sound is not loaded. Sound is not loaded. The sound is not loaded. We can also add it here, like if it's loaded and sound and this. Let's see. Let's go here. Record one audio file. If I play 1, 2, 3. Come on, what's happening? I press pause. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. Come on. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Come on. Guys, I think you can hear, right? Because I cannot. Why it doesn't restart? Well, let's do something like this. If status is loaded, if it's not loaded, I want to stop here. Return. Then I'm not gonna need this one anymore. Well, I don't care about the sound as well because I can call this one like this. And maybe this one shouldn't be async, just sending the execution. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Come on. Come on. Why are not going back? Cannot complete operation because sound is not loaded. That's a bit weird that the sound is not loaded. Are we... Where do we set sound? Do you think because it's this unload async? Come on, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1. Come on, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1. It should restart. Come on. If status did just finish. Can it clash with this status from here? New status. New status, new status, new status. I'm gonna where did everything else disappear from here? 7, come on. We need you to work. Goes to the end and go back. Sound, set position async. There is also the sound dot replay. But I don't want to replay. I want to just set the position and that's it. Yeah, now the replay is actually working. But why the set position async doesn't? Now it's simply stopped there. Oh, set position worked. So now you're working. All of a sudden, I'm gonna also connect my phone to see it on a physical device. Hello? Weird, doesn't work. Yes, it's an async function. Hello, hello, hello. Styles. Oh, come on. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3. And now you should go back from the beginning. I will simply do a console warn should restart. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now it works. And if I play, you see? What's going on here? Play sound. Set position async. Let's check the documentation. Maybe I'm missing something. It's in the AV. Set position async, position milliseconds, tolerance. The desired position of playback in milliseconds. So if I do 0, that's 0. This is equivalent set status async, position milliseconds. Should I try that playback object? That's the sound. Dot set status async. Let's try the sound dot set status async playback position 0. One, two, three. One, two, three. ¿Qué pasa? I know. I think I know. We set this on playback status update when loading the sound. Should I try to add this one here? No. Oh boy. But we also want to I don't know, for some reason it's very like, oh, I think I'm just loading I'm loading a lot of sounds and I'm not unloading them. And for that reason, look at my simulator. Oh boy. So I think it was a bad mistake to uncomment the unload async. Hello, hello, hello. Come on, stop. What's happening there? Go to memos, loading, save, loading sound. What did they do? Oh, probably, yeah. I added, wait a second. Stop it. Just stop it. I added this load sound. So on playback status update, I'll put the on playback status update in a use memo or use callback. And I want to recreate this function every time the sound changes. Let's see what's gonna happen right now. My understanding was that the sound set status async or anything else was not working because it was working with a older version of a sound when assigning this here. Maybe I don't. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, stop. It loaded. I press play. It doesn't even want to play. That's nice. Oh boy. Let me open it on the device. Am I missing something here? Probably yes. But we're gonna get there. So let me check on the device. 1, 2, 3. We can play back. it doesn't actually play. So what's going on? Load sound. Boy. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Should restart, but doesn't. You know what I'm gonna do? When we press on play, I'm gonna do replay async. And that will 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 replay that track from the beginning. If I press 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, replays. I think that's also not a bad solution. Even though I wanted to, when finishing it, to move back to here, something is going wrong there with my functions, with loading and so on. But yeah, we're gonna keep this replay async. Oh, sorry. Another thing is that when we press this button, play sound, while the music is playing, I want to actually pause it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do a check here if status dot is loaded and status is playing, then I want to call await sound dot pause async. Otherwise, I will replay it. So if I do like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it plays 1, 2, 3. If I stop it in the middle, it pauses. If I play it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, beginning. Okay, that's fine. Should restart. Let's maybe remove some of this stuff. And I think we can also show some information about the timings of this one. So what should we show at the end the total duration? I don't know, maybe in the playback container here we can have a text with duration, and this text will have some style. It will have, let's do a position absolute. Let's put it at the right 0, and let's do bottom 0. This playback container height, I think we should increase it to 40 in order to have more space there, even 50. That's good. Background color. I just want to see where is too much space. The too much space is coming from the container padding. It should be only padding horizontal. Yes, like this. And maybe some small padding vertical. Padding vertical 5. Yeah, that's better. And here for the text, for the duration, I'm going to do color gray. But this one shows in milliseconds. What we actually want to do, let's do a font family, intermedium, semi. Okay. What we want to do with this duration is probably have it as seconds or minutes and then seconds. So what can we do? Let's create out of it duration string, or maybe to create a function, a utility function const milliseconds to duration or format milliseconds. We're gonna receive milliseconds as a number, and we want to output, well, number of minutes. How many minutes based on the milliseconds? We need to know how many full minutes. So milliseconds divided by 1000, that's gonna be seconds, right? And if we multiply it by 60 seconds in a minute, that's going to be minutes. And then we need to do math.floor because we want the integer value of a minute. Now for the seconds, that's going to be number of milliseconds divided by 1000. That's going to be the total amount of seconds. The total amount of seconds. But we need to first I can do here like percentage. First of all, I need to get rid of full minutes and only keep the second amount. So I'm gonna take the remainder when divided by the value for the minutes, and then I'm going to divide it by 1000 to take the seconds, and only then I'm gonna do math.floor. Not sure if that's correct, but hopefully it is. And I'm gonna simply return an object with minutes, then seconds. But I also want to make them to pod them. So I think there is a so we see this one is 1, but I need format milliseconds. Format milliseconds duration. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Should be around 5 seconds. Oh boy, duration. What's the actual duration? It's around 1578. So that's, I should look at the first one. Almost 5 seconds. And it shows as 0.4. That's correct. That's correct. 0 minutes, 4 seconds. Yeah, with a model, like I first get rid of the full seconds and the full minutes, and only get the seconds. I think it's working, because if I'm gonna do format milliseconds, 27 minutes and 30 seconds in milliseconds. That's gonna be this amount of milliseconds. So let's see if it will work. If I'm gonna do it like this, it should be 2730. 2730. Yes, it works correctly. The only thing is that, yeah, when I display the duration here, I want the seconds to add a 0 bit before that. So I can simply do that here with a condition. Like if seconds is less than 10, I want to render a 0 here. Otherwise, don't render anything. So for values that are less than 10, which is 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 4, it will add this 0 in front of it. The inter semi is too much, so I'm gonna do inter here. Maybe I will reduce the font size to 12. Nice. Do we also want to show the same for how much did we play back? We can do that in the same line by having them like this. So here I can do format, not duration, but position, and there format millisecond for a format duration. And this way it will show both where we are and what's the total duration. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4 seconds if I play. 1, 2, 3, it will update 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, and it will stop. And I can go from the beginning. 1, 2, it will again 4, update 5, 6, 7. Perfect. Okay. So now with playback we are good. Let me see what your guys saying here. A month full of projects, every day new project, like an advent calendar. Yes, that's exactly right. And DEVember is a result of December and developing, voted for the community. Yes, it was voted by you guys. Perfect. Oh, Alan was asking, can someone explain what's DEVember? Thank you very much for the help, guys, for explaining. And you actually did a great job. Basically, DEVember is a marathon of React Native tutorials. Every single day we're uploading one tutorial about React Native. Today we are at day 7, and today we are building the Voice Memos application from iOS, and we're working a lot with audio playback, audio recordings, and so on. We actually have already the basic structure of our Memos application. We can record and we can play back audio. And the next step is actually going to be trying to animate some audio waveforms. So yeah, that's our DEVember event. And we are also doing a fundraiser, Education for Children, where we are supporting the Save the Children organization effort in providing education to children worldwide. You can donate somewhere on YouTube. You'll see the Donate Now button, and we also have some incentives. Yeah, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new here. We are doing a lot of React Native tutorials, not only during December, but throughout the year as well. And we do that by building exciting projects. Hey, James, thank you very much. Hi, you see the React Native 073 bridgeless mode. Yeah, I saw the announcement. I still have to look through it. This is the reason I prefer stream instead of tailored tutorials, because we learn how to approach an issue and debug it. Perfect. One more month like this and 1,000 ideas and startups will spark. Thank you. Already enrolled on your course, and this is amazing. They are amazing. Thank you very much, Math. I really appreciate that. Inamul, thank you. I appreciate your support. All right, guys. Actually, before we will go to the next step, one thing that I don't like at the moment with the implementation is that this progress bar is jumping. It's not following smoothly. 1, 2, 3. We can fix that easily using Reanimated. And to do that, what we're going to create is we're going to create an animated indicator style using the use animated style from React Native Reanimated. This is a function that should return an object with styles that we want to animate. What we want to animate is this left position. Where is it? The left position. So I'm going to copy it from here to animated style. Now, instead of this hard-coded object for the playback indicator, I'm going to add the animated one. But in order for this to work, we need to make it animated here, animated.view. The animated should be imported from React Native Reanimated like this. And now everything is going to still be the same, but it will allow us to animate this. It loads and it moves. But we can animate this by using the wave timing. So instead of jumping to the new progress, we are going to move towards that progress. Now, okay, it's a bit better, but not what you'd expect. It jumps and then stops, jumps and then stops. And that's because the timing here, it has an option for the user config, and the user config can have time. Let me see the documentation of a with timing. It needs user config and it can have a duration. The duration in which we want this to happen. By default, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be 300. And we have these jumps. We still have these jumps because the duration of our with timing is not synchronized with how often our progress changes. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at where do we take the progress from. The progress is taken from the status. Now the status, if I search set status, we are calling it in the onPlayback status update. This onPlayback status update is being called periodically. How often? We can specify that here. I'm not sure if it's here, but probably it's in the configuration here. So instead of undefined, I can send some configuration, and there should be progress update interval milliseconds. So if I will use the same value here as for our with timing animation, duration 100, I suppose we're gonna synchronize of how it happens, but I might be wrong. So let's keep it for a bit. Stop, and let's try it now. I might be wrong. So let's keep it for a bit. It's better, but it's still not smooth for some reason. Let me check here. Progress update interval milliseconds. What's this one? Set progress update interval. The new minimum interval in milliseconds between calls on playbook status. The minimum. Should I do more? Like, I don't know, 250? And this is going to be 4 times a second. Maybe 2 is not often enough. I might be wrong. So let's keep it for a bit. Has this one. In the status, I think we also have, look, in the, if I do console log status, we will also have, if it's loaded, duration is looping, playable duration, position, progress, update, interval, millis. Positions. Is this one simply going to show us 250? I think so, yeah. Well, at least we can do it programmatically here, even though it's not synchronized for some reason. But let's do it like this, or 0. Maybe not 0, but 100, I don't know. Okay, and maybe I will decrease this one to be more often, like, I know, 50. Yeah, it still jumps for some reason. Very weirdly. With timing, duration, progress. And if I don't have a with timing, what's gonna happen? Yeah, it's even worse. I'm not sure how low we can go on this update milliseconds. Probably we cannot go as low as this. Maybe like okay, this would be probably 60 FPS. And yeah, maybe it looks better. It looks a bit smoother. Maybe in this situation, if it's that often, we will not need the with timing. So if I do now with updating it 60 times a second. Yeah, this one looks smooth as well. So actually we don't even need the with timing and the animated style. I'm gonna leave it here because maybe you want to decrease how many times you you update you call that function and just use the timing instead. Okay, perfect. So now we are good here. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually check out to a new branch called day 7. And we are not finished yet. We still want to do the waveform, but I want to commit things. Basic voice memos application. Nice. Now, yes, now is going to be the fun one, the fun part. Is going to be the messing around with animations until I do something where I break completely the application. So what I want to do is later we want to show the waveform. But before that, I want to show some kind of animation on this button, on the record button, as we are recording and as sound comes through the microphone. So let's go ahead and in our components, we're in the, not in the components, let's go in our application memos. And here we are rendering the footer button, the button inside the footer. Record button. Should we try, I don't know, larger button? Okay. Before we jump into the animation, we will need to see what data do we have access to in order to use it for driving our animation. So one of the data that we're gonna have on this when we create the audio, start recording, here on the recording itself, we will be able to do recording.set on recording status update. And what should happen when this one recording status update? It will receive the status and it will do something. Let's go ahead and console log status and see what properties it has. Status dot. One of these property is this metering. Let's see what values we will receive. If I start recording, here we see different values, and if I talk very loudly, it should be low. And if I'm silent, it should be, if you talk very loudly, it gets very close to 0, and if you are silent, it will go to -60 or something like that. In fact, this is metering. Let's go to the Expo audio documentation for this property, and this metering is a number that's the most recent reading of the loudness in decibels. The value ranges from -160, which is a very low, indicating minimum power, to 0, which indicates maximum power, present or not, based on recording options. See recording options for more information. Okay, so now we have a value that represents the loudness of the microphone, like how loud is you're currently speaking in the microphone. We will use that one in order to do some animations around this button. I'm not exactly sure what we're gonna do, but I'm imagining something that wraps around our button itself. So if I'm gonna wrap our pressable inside a view with a style, what if I'm gonna do here background color red, or maybe even a red with some opacity, background, let me do red for red. I can go with a full red, and I can decrease it a bit in, or maybe I can even do, yeah, I can decrease it in here, like 5.5 in opacity. So if I go here, okay, we have something. Now on the record button, in order for us not to see that one, I'm gonna add a background color white, and that will make that white perfect. Let's go ahead and move these styles in our style sheet. So we're gonna call styles.waves, or recording waves. Record wave. Let's add it here as like this. Or should I make them completely absolute position? Let's actually try with absolute position, because I don't want to mess around with the size of the whole component. So maybe I'm gonna do it here, record wave as a view. I'm gonna self-close it, and I'm going to say record wave is position absolute. And actually I can destructure the style sheet dot absolute fill object. Yes. Can I increase the size to be over? Yes, I can. And using that one, I will do the size and height. Aspect ratio of 1 to make it a square. Can I? No. Height 150 as well. Maybe I can do it with Maybe with a top, bottom 0, left 0, right 0. What if it's going to be minus 20 for all of them? Will it be larger? Yes, it will be larger in all directions. I want to put it behind our button, so I'm gonna say that index minus 10, minus 100, 1000. Maybe I should render it before the red circle. Anyway, it doesn't want to move back. Why? Why I don't want to move back? Move back. Move back. That's the footer. Record wave. Z-index works on iOS and elevation works on Android. But yeah, it's a bit weird because it's child of that one. So maybe I'm gonna have to put it like this, but it's going to be inside a view. So this is the whole button, this container. Yes, yes, now it's behind the button. Okay, so record wave, let's make it border radius, a very large number to make it circle. And this one will expand in size as we, as we talk. So the values of top, bottom, left, right, these should be animated. So let's go ahead and do const animated record wave. It's going to be use animated style. And we're going to animate that top, bottom, left, and right. Now we're going to take this animated from here and we're going to pass it to the view that we just created as the second property to our style, and we're going to make it an animated.view. Now I can change these values and it will automatically change. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually have a function body with return statement here like this, because I want to calculate the size, or the size. So if the size is going to be minus 10, I'm going to put this one to all the values, just to calculate it once and reuse it for everything. Oh, come on. And if I'll change here to 5 or to 0, it's gonna change. Now, this value, we need to use the metering that is coming from our recording, the metering that we saw here. So let's store the metering value inside a shared value. So metering is equal to use shared value, which will start at minus 100, let's say, very low volume. Now let's set the metering, update the value of metering when we receive a new value. So status.metering and value number undefined or minus 100. And then for the size of our animated, we can interpolate. We can interpolate the value of our metering. Come on. metering dot value, and we need to map from one range to another. So the value, the metering, as we saw, can be from minus 160 to 0. And the sizes, when it's minus 160, that's going to be very large. And when it's 0, it's going to be actually 0. And just like that, it should work. Something should work. So let's run on iOS. Come on. Expo Go. DEVember. If I go to the 7th, go to memos. Now it's not visible because I guess the metering is at minus 100 and that's a very small value. Now if I'm gonna press record and I'll start talking, I don't know, it didn't seem to work, to be honest. No, it should be the other way around. If it's low, it should be 0. If it's close to 0, it should be large because that's loud. Will that work now? No, it's still not working. If I speaking, let's do speaking volume usually. Average speaking volume microphone. I think it should go from where? How loud you talk in a microphone when you bring closer to your mouth. Any specialist around 70. Minus 60 to 0. So I can do minus 60 here to 0. Okay, that works. And if I talk now, hello, hello. Minus 60. The size should be 0. The more it goes here, it should increase. I can do here, I can clamp it at 0. I will do 0, 0 here. In order to say that from this range to here, it's always going to be 0. So now it's not visible, but from minus 60 to 0, should go somewhere here. Let me see the metering, minus 19, and so on. Hello, hello. Let me try on the physical device. Zero, 7. Hello, hello. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. No, it's not working. It's minus 100. Now as I talk, it moves to different values. Minus 27, minus 30. Okay. I need to also know the size that is being calculated here. Let me see. Maybe it's too small and that's just why we don't see it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 60, 70. So it should work. $75. What if it doesn't like floating point numbers? Did I make it animated? Yes. Seems like. Size 75. 10, 5. Oh, it should be -5. Oh, come on. Okay, my bad, my bad. So when I can do -100 here. Let's see now. 1, 2, 3. 1. Perfect. Now, instead of jumping to that size, we're going to do with timing. So we're gonna move to that. Maybe even a with spring or something like that, but even like this is gonna be better. Now it's very large because I talk, and now when I will not talk, it will not be there. So yes, as you can see, it already adds some effects on how loud you are. Anyway, you can play with these sounds. For example, maybe not -100, but -50 is going to be enough. Something like this, maybe even 25 or 30. So yeah, something like this. Okay, perfect, like that. What else I can do? Maybe not with timing, but with spring. Let's play with it and let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think that looks nice. It gives you really cool feedback to understand what's happening. -60 here, and when I talk, it goes to -20. And let's see on the phone what's happening. Now I'm gonna do it on the phone. Seven, go to memos, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If I bring it closer, okay, it works. And the same thing here with the metering. I think you can update how often do we want the metering to change. So I think this high quality is simply an object with is metering enabled. And what else? Bitrate, sample rate. I think it's okay. Recording options. Let's see if we can change anything. Android and iOS is metering enabled. The boolean that determines whether audio level information will be part of a status object under metering key. So I think we can simply change the what? The how often we call the on. Recording, and the recording when we create it. Progress update interval milliseconds. The interval milliseconds between the calls on recording status update, this value defaults to 500 milliseconds. Yes. So if I will send as the third options to our create here, the second one should be on recording status update. I'm gonna say undefined. We don't want anything yet there. But if I will change the progress to update from 500 to 200, then our waveform should look better and be more dynamic. If I change it to 1000 divided by 60, now I think it should be even more dynamic. And to understand how often this changes, we can simply in the size, instead of with spring, go back to the jumping of interpolation. And this, when doing this, we're gonna see like how it jumps back and forth. I think the with timing was better because it doesn't really need, hey, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And maybe if I do with timing, I should also do some options here for the duration to be smaller, like very fast. Okay, so that's our audio form as we use it here. We can use the same like sizing and so on for different things. For example, we can adjust the opacity or the color based on that. We can deform it, change the shape, and so on. But yeah, I think that's a small and little cool effect that we can add some animations based on the audio level coming from the microphone. All right. Now that we can do that here on the microphone while recording it, how can we do that on the audio itself? On the audio, if we look in the documentation, there is an option to take some samples. How is it called? The sample. Recording options, set on audio sample received. Yes, there is a function on audio sample received, and this is a function that is being called when we are playing back the audio and when the audio receives samples as parameters. So let's see if this function will help us in any way. And for that, we're going to have to go to our memo list item here. Because when we create the sound playback, when we create it, what we can do is we can do sound dot on sample or set audio sample received. This will receive a sample, and we can do a console log of a sample. Let's try to do it as JSON. So JSON.stringify sample null and 2. Let's try to play one of these audios. So it receives a lot of samples. On the microphone while recording it. Okay, I'm not sure if this method is actually going to help us, because first of all, it comes in phases. Like the audio is loaded in small samples, and we don't have like all the data from the same time. Maybe there is a way to do that, to take all the audio sample, to take the loudness of the whole music, but I haven't found it yet. And my idea is that when we are recording, because we have access to this metering while recording, I recommend saving this into a data array with the loudness of this track that we are currently recording. And then we're going to have this array with the data when we will use it in the memo list item. And using that array, we're going to be able to render the wave. So what I want to do is I will want to have I will have a const audio loudness, set audio, let's do metering, set audio metering, and this is going to be, as I said, an array, use state, that will contain a lot of values with the metering value, at different points in the track. We receive this metering where in this set on recording status and metering. Okay, so what we can do is we can set audio metering by appending current value, by appending to the current value the new metering value that we received. This one, status metering. And I can do here if status.metering, then do these two lines. We can type this metering, audio metering state with number, array of numbers. What's going on here? Metering. Number is not assignable. Or minus 100. Okay, perfect. So now that we will have this array, when we stop the recording, where do we stop the recording? Stop recording. I am setting the array of memos here, where we only save a URI. Let's go ahead and change what we save in the array of data from only saving URI to saving the memo, a memo type. It will have a URI of audio, which is going to be a string, but it will also have the metering array, which is going to be an array of numbers. Now I'm gonna use this memo for the list of memos, and instead of array of string, it's going to be an array of memos. Now when we add to this array, we're gonna have an error here, because when we press stop recording, at the moment we're simply adding that URI. But instead of that, we want to add an object with URI and with the metering that we collected in the state. Audio, how did we call it? Audio metering. After that is done, we will set audio metering with an empty array to be ready for the next one, where maybe this should happen when we start recording. So when we start recording, yes, let's reset it. Let's see if that will work for us. So if I go to memos, well, first of all, this data memos will go to the flat list. And the flat list now was only working with a URI. Let's go ahead and change it to memo item. And if we go to memo list item, here we want to say that this memo is of type this type. So I'm going to simply export type memo from our screen and use it here, and hopefully it will import properly. Maybe not. Maybe I'm gonna do it vice versa. I'm gonna export it from the memo list item. And here I'm going to import it. Yes, like this. Now in the load sound, instead of URI, I'm gonna take it from our new object, memo.uri. Let's see where else. What's going on here? Memo. Oh, because this should be what? Memo.uri. Oh, it should be URI, and the value is memo URI. Let's see where else. For example, here memo.uri, or when the memo changes. And here duration is okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and console log here the memo itself to see what data do we have. I'm gonna record 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna stop, and we see that the memo has all of this metering with the URI. Actually, I don't want that much data because I will have like these audio waves as very thick lines. It's not going to be very small lines as you might see on the memos here. I want them thick. And for that reason here in the memos, when we do the recording, I will actually leave it to maybe twice a second just to have it. And if I record right now, maybe a bit more, 250. You can play around with this. Oh, come on. Expo, come on, Expo. So now that in our component we have an array of values with these decibels, I think we can simply go ahead and render, instead of a static line for our playback indicator, we can render vertical lines, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, for our sounds. How we're gonna do that? Well, that's gonna be tricky, but we can. That's gonna be here in the playback background. Let's go ahead and start by. Will I have to reuse the playback background? Playback background. Maybe not, but I'm going to have here a view that will have a style. Styles dot wave, and inside this view we're going to map through our memo dot metering dot map, and for every decibel there I will render a vertical line, which is going to be a simple view with some styles, of course. Styles dot wave item or wave line. Okay, let's go ahead and add some styles to the wave and wave line. Wave and wave line. Come on, let's go. 7 memos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here we have it. And for the wave line, I'm going to have a wave. Maybe it's going to be flex 1 and a height of 30. Let's go with a background color red. And to put them into the same row, the wave will have flex direction row. Okay. They have flex 1, and I will do a gap on the wave to have some spaces between them of 3. Now the lines are following. Okay. What next? What next? First of all, the playback background is not going to be there anymore. Perfect. And the wave line will have the background of gray or Gainsborough. Yeah, something like this. And you know what? The only thing is that the height should depend on the wave itself. So I'm going to go back here in our metering wavelength. I'm going to add here a inline style for the height, which will depend on the decibels. So I'm going to also interpolate, use the interpolate function from reanimated to interpolate the decibels. And the decibels can go from -100, or I will keep it from -60 to 0, when it's minus 60, the height should be low, so it should be 0. And when it's 0, it should be, I don't know, 100. Let's see. If I go here, go to memos, I start recording. Here I talk, then a small pause, and then some voice as well. Yeah, we can see that in the beginning I talked, then I had a pause, and then we have again. But they all start from the top. Probably 100 is going to be too much. 50 is probably better. And what else? I'm going to align them in the center. To do that, here, align items center. They now are in the center, and the wave line will have a border radius 10, even higher, 20. And just like that, that's already that's already a wavelength, pretty functional one. I can go ahead and also record a new one. Here I'm talking I forgot the antonym of loud, but yeah, we're gonna see something on the wavelength. So just like that, yeah, we see something at the beginning. Maybe I shouldn't go as low as 0 when we don't have enough decibels. So maybe I should go to, I don't know, 5, just to have something. And I need to clamp it on 5. So I will probably do here the third one, extrapolate dot clamp. By doing extrapolate clamp, we make sure that we don't go over 50 and under 5. These should be the minimum and maximum values. Recording and showing waves in real time is very heavy. Yeah, maybe that's true. On the emulator, it's a bit slow, but on the physical device, it's quite good. And I'm gonna see, let's see the waves now. Yes, very nice, very beautiful. The only thing that is bothering me a bit is the amount of wave lines that we have here. Depends on the size of the audio recording. Because if I will have a very short one, then it's gonna have like just a couple of lines here. So we should take this into consideration and somehow manage to reduce the amount of lines or to make them constant. What we can do is, I'm not sure like what even WhatsApp is doing. So let me try that, like with a very short audio. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Come on. Yeah, it still displays it. So maybe what we're gonna do is we're actually going to keep track of more values for the metering by reducing how often it's being called. So even if it's going to be a very small one, it's going to have enough values here. And after that, on this side, we are going to do some magic here. Because what we can do, const lines equal, well, we need a equally, how to do it properly. I think we need function. I have an idea of how to reduce them when they are too many, but how to add them when it's too not enough, not really sure. So probably I think I will leave it here. I will leave it for yourself to go ahead and think about how you can standardize the sizes and the amount of bars that you display in the audio recording. Because now if the audio recording is going to be very long, like this one that I'm recording right now, then we're going to have a lot of lines there. We're not even displaying. I'm not sure why. Come on. Let's try again, a very short one. Okay, that's good. But if it's going to be very large, I think what it will do is because of the because of a gap between the items, there will be so many that they will actually be invisible and only the gap will remain there. So now if I will stop, yeah, I think it's too much lines there. That's why it stops. So I think it's quite important to reduce that. Or at least what you can do is you can do a dot slice, but it's not gonna be correct by doing slice. Okay, so let's fix this issue with at least too many items. So const lines equal to memo.metering. Let's do it like this, and then we can play around with this one. For example, if I will simply do a slice, and I don't know, 10, then even if it's too much, it's gonna only display the first 10 bars. So I'm gonna try quite a long audio file with a lot of lines, and I expect it to render only 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. But that means that we lose the ending. So I don't want to cut it. I want to shrink it and somehow calculate averages. How do we calculate these averages? Oh boy, that's gonna be hard. Or maybe we can use interpolation. Can we use interpolation? No, we're not going to be able to do that. My mind is not working. So yeah, basically, like if it's too big, we need to take the numbers and calculate averages that are close to the numbers. Should I just simply try to make it half size always? Let's see, maybe I can find something on the internet. Maybe I don't have to reinvent the wheel. How should I search it? So expand shrink an array with decrease array size by averaging edges and value with numpy. Hello. Decrease array size by averaging. 5 ways to calculate an average with array reduce. Shrink an array the difference between array values then average them. Look what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start very inefficient, and then we're gonna see like if we need to optimize anything. So we're gonna have, first of all, we're gonna collect everything in an array lines. I'm not gonna need this one. Now let's go ahead and do, how many lines do we want? Let number of lines. We want 20 lines. Okay, now let's go ahead and loop through our values, memo.metering. We're going to loop like this. It's going to be dot for each. It's going to be a value and the index. The value and the index. Or maybe I will need to do a for int. I'm getting back at, I don't remember when was the last time I wrote a for loop. So maybe I will do it number of lines, I++, and every time when we include a line here, we will need to calculate it based on the array that we have. So one way to do that will just be like if we have an array like this. So if metering is 0, 1, 2, 5, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do 7, 8, and 9. If we have this metering array of 9 values and we want a lines array of 3 values, what we can do is we can just pick at this position, that's going to be the first one. Then we are going to take the 6, which is at position 3. Then after 6, we're going to take the 3 from here. And that's how we reduced from an array of 9 values to an array of 3 values. We simply skipped them. To do that, that's going to be quite easy. For example, lines.push. We are going to take memo.metering at position const metering index is going to be, well, it's going to be this I, but not simply I. It's going to be, if we have 3 here, I'm going to think like this. If we have 3 here, the index that we want to access is going to be our I multiplied by the total number of lines by metering. Oh boy, memo metering dot length divided by number of lines that we want to create. So in this situation, the metering length is 9 divided by 3, that's going to be 3, and multiplied by the index. So if the index is 0, we're going to take it at position 0. If index is 1 multiplied by 3, that's going to be at position 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. But this one can also be math.floor. It can also be an non-integer number. So that's why we need math.floor. So we can take the meter in the index from here, and what's gonna happen? I said that we need 3 lines. Hello. How are you? Yeah, I'm finishing it very shortly. So as we can see, we have 3 lines, and if I will simply change it to 5 here, it's still gonna work to 10. I'm not sure what will happen if I increase over the limit. It still works somehow, you know? 50, look, 25, 50. I think it was simpler than I imagined, because as I was saying, I'm not calculating any kind of averages. I'm simply skipping over the values and taking only some of the values. A better approach would be, if we need to decrease from 9 items to 3 items, is to take the first 3, do an average, calculate the first one, then take the next 3, do an average, and so on. You can do that, but I'm actually not going to do that. But I think it's not actually that hard, you know? Because you need to take the metering index, and then you need to take the next metering index, next metering index, and then do a slice and an average. That's how I suppose it will be. So it's I plus 1. And we will do const average equal to memo dot metering dot, I will slice, I will cut the array from metering index to next metering index, and then I will do an how to calculate the average? Dot, or is there a math dot average? I'll simply sum everything. JavaScript average. I need to sum them. Const values, and then the average is going to be values.map. I want to not map, reduce. And I want to simply sum them. Previous value, that's going to be the sum. Current value, that's going to be A. And we want to do sum plus A. We're going to start from 0. And we want to divide that by values dot length. And that's going to be the value over that period. And if I will do here, let's first record this one. Do we need a larger audio? I think we can actually have it as a bigger audio. And then we're going to compare the average metering and only selecting different values for this metering. So if I pause right now, that's taking only small values. But if I'm going to do the average, not sure. Let's see. Not a number, not a number. Can this be next metering index? 0. Should this be 1 plus multiplied? Come on. Expo go. Let's go. Time to go. No, yeah, I'm just trying to finish this one. The audio length. So let's try 1, 2, 3. Come on. I need to keep it recording for a bit to have a larger audio. And this is what? What's going to be this average? Console log average. Seems like it's working. So if I'm going to push the average, yes, it changes. So if I change from here to here, you see that it changes. And yeah, the average probably is a better option. The average, this function probably is not fully finished, because if it's going to have a very short audio, it's going to, yeah, fail, because it will not have any values to compare it with. Maybe I will have to do here. The metering index plus metering index. Should I do math dot, maybe not floor, but seal? Will that work? To have like the next one to always be more. One, two, three. If I stop, yes, it works. And as you can see, it kind of copies more values for the same one, just to have 50 lines. And even if it's very short audio at the top, like it's going to simply copy them over and over again. And if it's going to be longer, and if it's going to have like more than 50 data points, it's going to shrink it to 50 lines and will calculate the average length of those values. So if I will stop now, as we can see, the one on top here is a much better representation of this one. Also, if I'll have some pauses, it should also properly work. Yes, we see that it slowly starts, then it has a pause, then I talked again. So perfect. That's amazing. Also, if I'll have some pauses, another thing that maybe will also look good and not very hard to implement is to change the color of the line depending on the progress. So the view here, it has the wave line, it has the height, and I can also do here color, because if I set color red or background color, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, come on, start. And if I pause, yes, they are red. Now I want to display them with red if progress, where is it? There is this progress, which is a value from 0 to 1. So if progress is more than the current position, the value of our index divided by lines dot length. So if it's more, then render it with royal blue. Otherwise with Gainsborough. So now if I'm gonna play the audio, yes. Come on. Let's try to go back. Probably, oh, it crashed a bit. So day 7, memos. Here we can record the audio. We see the waveform of the audio recording. We can pause, and we're gonna see the audio recording in the list. If we play it, here we can record it's going to play audio, and we see the waveform of the audio recording colored as the progress goes. I think if we have a lines, we might not even need the playback indicator that we have, that dot, because we can have them here. We can as lines audio. We see the waveform of the audio recording. Progress in the audio is playing there. Maybe even the text that we display here with absolute, that is in the playback container. The playback container to have like 70 or maybe even 80. Just like that. Here we can record the audio to see better. We see the waveform of the audio recording. I think that's perfect. Right, so that was our tutorial for today. I think another thing that I want to do is simply reset the audio metering, or the metering when we end everything. So when we stop recording, I want to set the metering.value to 0 or to -100 decibels. And now if I talk and then I stop, it will reset here, and yeah, perfect. And now if I talk, nice. DEVember, day 8, but I'm gonna build GTA 6. Yes, we can do that. Anyway, guys, that's the tutorial for today. In this tutorial, we learned how to work with a microphone to record audio files. We also learned how we can play back the audio that we are recording, and we also played around with animations to have a wavelength here for the animation when we talk in the microphone, and then we also generated a wavelength of the audio recording. So when we play a wavelength, it actually works properly. Well, I'm very excited about this result. I hope you enjoy it as well and you learned something new today. This was day 7 actually of DEVember. Day 7, and we've built the React memos. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe to the channel and join us tomorrow, because tomorrow we have a new project. During the whole December, we're uploading one React Native tutorial every single day. So very excited about that, and let us know in the idea board what other projects you would like us to build. There is a lot of ideas there, and also go through them, vote for the ones that you enjoy more. Anyway, let's see if there are any questions now. Rogelio, thank you very much. And I will go ahead then and push all the code, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right, guys. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.